All right. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate you letting me come in tonight to do this presentation for you guys. So I'm going to be just launching my screen here in a minute. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that.
Oh, and sorry, I meant to add, sorry, Andrew, that Andrew would like to hold all questions to the end, just so he can not lose his train of thought as he goes. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
That's all right. So welcome to my presentation tonight on my photography and how I've developed. I've been doing river photography for quite a long time, actually, but recently took it seriously starting around the 2018, 2017 era. So I guess I'll kind of start with how I got into trains and photography before I start showing some of my work here. So it started back in 2007 when I was in North Conway and went to the Conway Scenic Railroad for the very first time. And the first locomotive I ever remember seeing was GP7 number 573, pulling in with a freight train on Railfans weekend. That was the first time I remember being at Conway Scenic, and I went and kept going and going and going and riding and riding and riding. And eventually I got into what a lot of people would know as chasing trains around. And that kind of started at Conway Scenic and then expanded to other parts of New England and even outside of New England too. But it all generally started with Conway Scenic. So there'll be quite a few pictures in there as that's where I've been a lot of the time, taking pictures and practicing photography there. And I guess the photography gig kind of started, probably around, I'm guessing about 2015. Initially, it was airlines that I was taking pictures of. And then that changed over back to railroads. And when I got into railroads again and photographing railroads, I started looking and I'm like, I could really do something with this. So I started taking pictures of railroads. And this is a little presentation of that from the pictures that I've gathered from 2018 to now. I don't have everything, but I got most of what I could find and put together. So I guess we'll get started underway here. So this is the first picture I remember taking with my first camera, which was for those of you who know cameras, a Canon SX530. So it was a little camera. And this was the first picture I ever remember taking was with 252 going over Girder's Bridge with then known as the Notch train, now known as the Mountaineer, sometime in the summer of 2018. So this was one of the first pictures that kind of opened my eyes a little bit, being like, I could really make something out of this if I just kind of keep going with it. So I did, and this was another shot I took at Conway Scenic in fall of 2018, and this was during the time when 4266 was actually taking trains up to Crawford Notch. And being a fan of the F units, I definitely wanted to grab a picture of it taking a train up the notch. So this is it arriving at Crawford Notch with the fall foliage train back in the fall of 2018 with the 252 behind it. And then 2019 came along, and that was a good year for photography, mainly because of what you're seeing in front of you. Steam Locomotive 7470 came out of restoration, and it was an incredible time to take pictures of it. And I was a little too late to the party for the really good old days of railroading, so this was the closest I could really get. So this is 7470 here with an excursion train over Kennett Curve just after departing Conway. And this was one of my favorite pictures I've taken of the engine, but there's some even better ones that are ahead of this as we move along here. So sorry if some of the pictures quality are a little grainy. There was some exporting issues I had, so it's not much I can really do about it. I tried to fix it, but this is about as best as I could get. So it kind of just again started taking off again. This is 573 at Glen Station back in, I'm gonna say, 2019. And then this here is probably one of my favorite pictures I've taken of all time, actually. It's definitely high up on my list of pictures. This was Railfans Weekend 2019 at the night photo shoot that was actually put together by Eric Grover. So you can see from left to right, we got 4268, 4266, 1751, and 7470. So this was a night photo shoot again at Railfans Weekend, and this was an incredibly well put together photo shoot for photographers. And this was probably, again, one of my favorite pictures that I ever have taken in my time doing railroad photography. And there's just so much that adds to this scene, from like the lighting and all the locomotive headlights glaring and people portraying the old times of the railroad. It really shows in this photo. So this is definitely one that I wanted to put in here for sure. And then 2020 came along, and I got a few opportunities to take pictures before the world shut down. So this was one of the pictures I took of 7470 with Steam in the Snow 2020. And I cannot wait to recreate this shot in January of next year with the F units for Covered Wagon. That's going to be an exciting time for pictures, especially. So here they are at Cobb Farm Road, performing a photo run by during the Mass Bay special again. We move on to a little bit towards February. This was when they did the 2 weeks of snow trains to add Tash Mountain Resort. So here you can see 573 pulling in with the 7:30 train. It was a very cold morning. We actually rode the second train because it was way too cold to continue chasing. It was freezing that morning. I remember it very well. It was pretty brutal. We move on to summer of that year. Like during 2020 with the shutdown and everything, I didn't have a whole lot of time to get out and get pictures. But this was one of the few that I've taken in 2020. This is New Hampshire North Coast Railroad. For those of you who don't know, they haul aggregate between Ossipee and Boston. So this is them on the Conway branch, taking a train full of sand from the pit in Ossipee, passing the old turntable in Wakefield, New Hampshire. And then this is kind of when I started venturing out a little bit more. You know, I've been going to Conway Scenic for almost 15 years now. And it was around 2020 when I started thinking, you know, I love shooting this railroad, but after the same spots and the same engines, you get kind of bored of it every once in a while. So I decided I wanted to go out and try something brand new, something I hadn't done before. So that's kind of when I decided to start getting the idea to go after Pan Am. This was before the sale with CSX was even announced, so I had no idea what was coming. But this is Pan Am. This is actually the Sappi local, which is a small local that runs up in, I'd like to say, central Maine. It runs out of Waterville. Well, actually, it starts in Skowhegan, runs down to Waterville, and then runs back to Skowhegan. It's a mill job. So this is a shot of them going over, I can't remember the name of that river that's over there, but that's them passing through. And you can see we have a Guilford unit leading the train, which those are definitely getting more rare, especially nowadays. So this was a nice little treat. And then we come towards the end of 2020 for a really good photo opportunity of 7470 when they had it out for the week, holiday week after Christmas and between Christmas and New Year's. So this was a shot that I took of it passing Intervale Cross Road. I believe this was the first day of holiday week trains. So this was a shot of them kind of in the evening light, as this was around wintertime. So this could have been easily 3:30, 4 o'clock easily with the lighting. And we go back a little bit to fall foliage of 2020, minus the construction site of the firehouse behind the trains here. But this one actually came out as a pretty good shot. This is 4 of Conway Scenic's units in one photograph during fall. You can see to the very right, we have 573, which just came back from Conway. We got 252 in the middle over there. And then onto the left, we have 216 and 1751, bringing in the Mountaineer from, I believe this would have been Fabian's at this time, if I remember correctly, when I took this picture. So now we move on to a new railroad that I had not followed before, and that was the Winnipesaukee Scenic Railroad. On October 31st, 2020, in cooperation with the Mass Bay Railroad enthusiasts, they held a special from Meredith to Lockmere Trestle and return. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Winnipesaukee Scenic is the sister company to the Hobo Railroad, and they run anywhere between 80-minute and 2-hour excursions. But there's a lot of track that they actually don't use regularly, and this was a lot of it. Anything between Lakeport and Lockmere, which is just outside of Tilton. That's actually where their trackage rights end, and they interchange with New England Southern. They don't really run a lot of passenger trains through that, so this was a really neat thing to see. So we have a little bit of a unique unit on the lead here. We got an EMD SW 1001, number 1590. At the time was still in its bright blue. It is now in the maroon red, like most of the other locomotives that we had there. And here they are going back. This was them going over the Lockmere trestle. So this was as far as they were going. So then they started heading back for a series of photo run-bys, just like they do at Conway. A series of photo stops, and this was one of them. And it was really cool to catch something like this because I believe the previous train that went over this trestle, or at least a passenger train, was at least 11 years. Like a regularly scheduled passenger train from the P&L themselves went over this bridge. So this was definitely a rare opportunity, and I did not want to miss it. So this was a result of that. And here they are again. They are passing over, I believe this is the Jewett. No, this isn't the Jewett Brook Bridge. I should know this. I work for them, so I should know this, but I can't put a finger on it right now. But this is them. It's somewhere in Laconia. So this is them doing a photo run by with the 1012. Nice and sparkling clean. And towards the end of 2020, again, we have just a basic picture of 1751 coming through Intervale Cross with the pumpkins on the plow, as you can see. And then we come into the winter when they had changed up the Christmas operation due to COVID. And it was a really good opportunity to shoot the 4266 in the winter. I have not had many chances to shoot the F units in general, so it was really nice to be able to get out and actually shoot a picture of it in a snowstorm. Probably wasn't a good idea to go out in a snowstorm, but regardless, I still got this photograph of 4266 sitting outside waiting to leave for Conway. And here they are again at Conway. This was earlier in the day before the snowstorm actually hit. And it came out really nice. I liked the how we got the white flags and the icicles. It really made it put a lot of texture to the picture, and I really enjoyed taking pictures of the Christmas trains this year with the 66. We got another steam picture. This is 7470 rounding the curve at West Side Road. Pretty much giving it everything she's got, as you can see in the picture. And there they are again as they were passing by. So then come 2021, this was again where a time I could really get some more pictures, but then kind of dwindled down. So this was Snow Trains 2021. We got GP35 number 216, rounding the curve at the White Mountain Cider Company in Glen. And this was a opportunity that I had wanted for a very long time. Ever since going to Conway Scenic, I'd always noticed the Russell snowplow that was always sitting. I never really got a chance to go photograph it as it was very rarely out. But there was one morning where I was driving around town and I heard it depart North Conway. So I somehow, thankfully, had my camera in hand. So I took off, headed for Glen, and got this shot of them rounding the curve. This is just outside of Cook's Crossing, actually, of them clearing the line the morning before snow trains would run for the day. So this was a long time wanting this picture, at least a 10-year time wanting it, and it was awesome to finally get it. And then springtime came around, and some people I know don't like shooting in the spring, and that's fine. It's definitely not the most colorful time to shoot anything, but when you have a railroad like New Hampshire North Coast, where the engines are just, the colors are bright, they're right in your face, it makes a great photo opportunity regardless of the season. So this is them rounding the curve in, this is just outside of Ossipee, heading down towards Dover to interchange or crew swap with the Pan Am at the time. And then we get into the photo freight of 2021. So this was 573. doing some switching in Conway. This was a really neat chance to take some pictures of a vintage locomotive with a freight train, which was absolutely awesome. And then I kind of decided that, I'd been practicing photography for a long time, and it was time to try and expand to some newer elements. So night photography was something I wanted to try. So I went out to my home railroad because I grew up in a small town called Gorham, New Hampshire, which is just outside of Berlin. That's where I grew up. So I grew up very close to the St. Lawrence and Atlantic Main Line. So I went out one day and decided that I was going to try some night photography with the railroad. So this was one of the first ones I'd ever taken, and it's definitely not the prettiest, but it shows that it was a brand new element, and it came out awesome. It came out good for a first timer. I mean, I've taken some better ones now compared to this, but this was the first time I'd actually gone out and actually tried something new in terms of night photography. So here they are again. This is the eastbound train. This is train symbol 394, which runs from Richmond, Quebec to Lewiston Junction in Maine. And the counterpart was in the picture before that. That was counterpart 393, the westbound. So here's the eastbound returning after their crew swap in Berlin, New Hampshire. And this is them in Shelburne, which is a small little town just outside of Gorham. It's very, very remote. And then came a time when I had a new opportunity. I had an opportunity to go out to Vermont for the first time. I believe it or not, I mean, in my years, I'd never gone to Vermont until last year, and that was something. So some friends called me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go on a night shoot?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's go do it." But then they're like, "Hey, there's a local running in Barrie, Vermont. Do you want to go after it?" And I'm like, "You know what? Let's do it." So this was a shot that I took of the Vermont Rail Barrie local, just leaving town with the 804 leading. This is one of two in-service Green Mountain locomotives left on the Vermont rail system, the other one being the 405, which you'll see later on. So here they are. This is early morning, I'm guessing around 9 a.m., heading to do their duties up, I believe it's north of the line. I haven't been up there since then, so I want to get back out there, but it's a little complicated up there. And then came a time when I had another neat little opportunity. When the 470 Club was bringing down GP9 number 72. 72 was in Hazens, and so we left really early in the morning. I'm talking 5 a.m., something like that. We left early, and we saw 72 in Hazens, and then we headed down to Fabian's where we found the 4266. And this was an all-day chase. We chased this from when they left Fabian's till they got to North Conway, because this was definitely something I wanted to catch on camera. B&M unit bringing a former B&M unit home, so that was something to capture for sure. And that's a picture I took of it at Crawford Station before they would hold for the Mountaineer. Now here's some more pictures of 7470, and I got to say these ones were definitely some of the best I've ever taken, especially given the fact these were not taken on my camera, but rather my mobile device. So this is 7470 on the turntable in North Conway. This was late 2021 when they were doing some tests with it. So here it is out on the turntable, and it was a really good chance too, because the Journey to the North Pole train was actually out. So the middle track was all open, so it made for a perfect photo opportunity to get the steam engine in its full glory. And there it is again as they were spinning it on the table. As they get ready to move it into the stall for the evening. And then come 2022, this is where photography really started taking off. And this is where all the new adventures came in, everything like New York, Vermont, Maine, all of that came into play right about here. So we started off the year with the New Year's special, which was just the two GP38s with a train. It made for some neat photo opportunities for sure. So this is a picture of them at Cobb Farm Road. Again, this is my local railroad, St. Lawrence and Atlantic Railroad. I had a great photo opportunity one morning. It was a school night. Probably shouldn't have been up as early as I was, but I was up anyway. And I heard the train horn in town. I'm guessing this was about maybe 4 a.m. I heard the train horn in town. I asked my grandmother, I'm like, you mind if I go out and go shoot this train? I knew it sounded crazy, but I'm like, do you mind if I go? And she's like, if you want to. So I got in the car and I took off and headed up to Berlin. And the westbound train had already passed, so there was no way I was getting that. And they had met in Berlin, and the eastbound train actually had work to do down at Isaacson's, which is it's a customer down there in Berlin that they still switch out every once in a while. They drop off a couple hopper cars, and it was coming up on 6 a.m. And I'm looking at the time, and I'm looking at the time the train's going through Gorham, and I'm like, we might get some daylight here. So I continue going east, and we're passing through Shelburne, New Hampshire, which you just saw a little earlier. And I'm looking at the sky, and I just start seeing this pink, like just on the horizon. And I decided I could either get a really low light shot at Shelburne, or I could go a few miles down the road, go to Gilead, Maine, and get a good shot. And this is what I got. This was in Gilead, Maine, at about 6:30 in the morning, with a gorgeous pink sky. And this could not have been timed any better, because about 1 minute after I took this picture, that sky was gone. That was it. So that's a picture of them on a very cold February morning, heading back to Lewiston. So now we get into the closing era of Pan Am. Back in 2020, late 2020, I was actually out photographing Pan Am the day that that it was announced that they were getting acquired by CSX. So I knew then that this was going to be a huge opportunity for a rail fan like me who lives in some corner in the US getting a merger like this. Like, where else could you get that, like, in an area like this? So I'm like, I gotta photograph this. This is gonna be a historic thing to look back on someday. So I definitely went out and got pictures as much as I could of Pan Am before they lost independence. So this was a night. We waited a long time for this train, if I remember correctly. We waited at least 4 or 5 hours for this train. It was yeah, we really had nothing to do. We went to a bunch of antique stores actually throughout the day, and then we came back and they were just leaving. So here they are leaving Portland, Maine, out of Rigby Yard, billowing out a ton of smoke from the 3 EMD units as they depart. I believe this was train POED, which is Portland to East Deerfield. And then came the big day with 4268 would ride the rails again. So this was actually in the morning before both engines were even started. So this is a picture I took of them sitting, waiting for the duty. And then this was the dedication to Ron Cole. This was a picture I took shortly after the ceremony had concluded. So I'm sure there's a lot of familiar faces in here. I can definitely see some familiar faces myself in here of this picture. And then we got Corey Fothergill giving the speech, and we got Eric Grover snapping a picture of him as he explains the day and the dedication and what it took to restore the unit and get it back on the rails. So of course, we all took off and got pictures of it. So here they are at the 3rd Iron Bridge in Hart's location. This is just a couple miles out from Sawyer's River. And then this was a picture that I'm actually very proud of. This one here was taken in Woodland Pines. And this picture actually got onto a Railfan and Railroad magazine post about this unit when it was inaugurated. So this photo was definitely one of my prouder moments as a photographer over the last few years. So again, here they are at Woodland Pines. And here they are arriving back at North Conway Station. And this is definitely a great photo with the 2F units and 573 matching right on the left. It really made for a neat little photograph to have matching units in the entire picture. And then came the Railfans photo special of May 2022, the triple header of 4266, 573, and 4268. Here they are seen rounding the curve at Glen Cider Mill again. And then after that, which I'll show you in a little bit, we took off for Pan Am again. So here's a picture of Pan Am in April of 2022. They're seen crossing Winnick's Neck Road in Scarborough. This is a little marsh area. And this was, I believe, if I remember correctly, this was train POED, I believe. I don't remember. It was a while ago when I took this picture. But there they are crossing with the beautifully patched locomotives as they begin their journey south. And then shortly after that, train AYPO came up from Ayer, Massachusetts. And this train is actually no more. The train AYPO was actually one of the first to go when CSX took over. And for those of you who have not known about this thing with CSX, AYPO is originally the train from Selkirk, New York. And it would come to Ayer, Massachusetts, and they would interchange. CSX would interchange with Pan Am, and Pan Am would take it to the rest of the way to Portland. But when CSX took over, there was obviously no point in that, as it's now the same railroad. So it's actually now a through train. The train symbols are now M426 and M427. And that's basically replaced AYPO and POAY's symbols. So this was actually original AYPO crossing Winnick's Neck Road. And then this here would be the final photo I would ever take of Pan Am under their own independence. This photo was taken on May 22nd after the Railfans excursion. I headed for Pan Am, and this would be the last photo I would ever take of them before they would be absorbed into CSX. So this is train RUPO, which is the Rumford job that runs down to Portland. So here they are seen. I believe this is actually Intervale Road in, I believe it's New Gloucester. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I've not been up there in a while, so this was a picture I took of them as they were crossing through. And then the change started. The whole big thing all started coming together. And the first big thing was this. This is the CSX, kind of the OCS, but it's also it was the geometry train. It was also for Geo. So they took 2 OCS cars and they were scanning down the Portsmouth branch one day. And I actually conveniently was in Ayer, Massachusetts. And a friend texted me and he's like, "You got to get to Rockingham Junction." And I'm like, "Why? I'm in Ayer." And he's like, "CSX is running their OCS over the line." And I'm like, "Okay." So I hurried on up, and it was a very slow run. They did no more than 5 or 10 miles per hour on that line. So here they are seen crossing. I believe that is the Sarah Mildred Bridge in the background. That's the bridge that crosses into Maine from New Hampshire. So you can see as they head back to Rockingham Junction, where I believe they would continue onward south. I forget where they went to that day after that. I stopped after Portsmouth, but that's a picture of them. And then this is really where the end of the era started coming together. There was one day where I was actually out on CSX. It was now CSX at this point. And me and a friend were going over the Route 1 bridge, which crosses Rigby Yard. And I looked down, and the office cars from Pan Am's office train were sitting on the rear of a consist with a end of train device on it. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, that probably means it's probably going to go out. So I headed down to Winnick's Neck Road, which is the first public crossing that they hit out of Rigby Yard. And we sat there, and they came up, and behind them was the 2F units from the old 2F units, the sisters from Conway Scenic, 6505 and 6516, now PAR1 and PAR2. And at the end, the office cars. Now, the reason they were doing this is because this was actually the end of the line for the OCS. CSX, after they had purchased Pan Am and everything was all in play at this point, actually took the cars and the locomotives down to Waycross, Georgia. The cars, from my understanding, I have never gotten a full confirmation on what's happening. To my understanding, these cars are being repainted, and the locomotives, I believe, are up for sale. So there's the cars as they bring up the end of the train. And then here they are in Berwick, Maine. So this was actually a really neat chase because usually it is downright near impossible to be chasing between Portland and Berwick because the track speed is fairly high. On this train, they were limited to 30 miles per hour, which was a huge advantage. We got here with about 5 minutes to spare, and this was a picture I took of the F units, unknowingly my last pictures of them, because we didn't know at the time where they were going or what their fate was at that time. So we grabbed every picture we could of them, whether they were leading or not. We just grabbed pictures of them. And then here's the return trip. This is M426, which is coming back from Ayer, Massachusetts. And this was definitely this goes as one of the few intense times that I've had when chasing a train. So we found this guy in Rockingham Junction. So I wanted to get a couple quick pictures of it at a couple other locations. So I tried to get to Dover. Big mistake. They were crossing the street in Dover right as I pulled up. So I'm looking and I'm like, I'm not leaving until I get a second shot of this train. I want a good shot of this thing. So I make a sharp right and we head down the road to Berwick. And I really did not know if I was going to make this or not because it's really close. It's a close call. So I gave it everything I had. So we kept going and going and going. And we catch up on a straightaway where the railroad is on the left-hand side of the road. And I'm pacing the locomotives and I'm like, this is not going to end out well. I can already feel it. We keep going. We finally pull up to North Berwick and the signals aren't even going off yet. And I'm like, okay, great. They're not here yet. I hadn't even stopped moving the car yet and the signal started going off. So I threw the car in park, sprinted out the door like a bullet and got this picture of them passing through by the old North Berwick station. If I remember right, I believe I was still running when I took this picture. So this was definitely a quick action moment here during my photography adventures of railroading. So then here's something a little different to kind of twist it up a little bit. This is CN, Canadian National Railroad, up in St. Albans, Vermont. So this is again part of the big adventures from this year. We decided that, we've shot pretty much every railroad in New Hampshire. So we're like, we've shot everything, let's go to a new territory. Let's go discover somewhere new and see a new railroad we haven't seen before. And Canadian National was one of those railroads. So this is them in the middle of pretty much nowhere in Vermont. They're a few miles out from St. Albans. This is, I believe, train M324, if I remember correctly. And then I believe this was actually the day of the geometry train when I took this before it had left. This was a Norfolk Southern, Pan Am Southern train in Ayer, Massachusetts, arriving to back onto the Y. So these were the intermodal cars. This is when they were actually coming in through that way, and they still do. But word has it that that's not going to be a thing very soon. They're going to be rerouted over the Boston and Albany, and who knows how much longer this shot is possible. And another new little railroad that I discovered this year was Providence and Worcester, which is a short line down there in Massachusetts. So this is their what's the name of this job? This is GRWO. This is Gardner, Massachusetts to Worcester. And this is them coming back, I believe, or this may be the way up. No, this is coming down. This is coming down from Gardner. And I've chased them into Worcester once. Probably never going to do it again because it's very stressful driving through Worcester. So I'm probably never going to ever do that again. But this was a nice shot that I got of them as they rounded the curve. And here was one that I was really happy with. This is something I've wanted for a long time. When I started photography, I was a little too late to the party for shooting Alcos. The Conway Scenic Alco was already gone at this point. The Hobo Railroad Alco was still active, so I got a couple of pictures of it, but nothing too great. So I decided I wanted an Alco because they're a dying breed. They're definitely not as popular as they once were. So I'd gotten word that the Vermont Rail / Green Mountain was actually running the 405 and RS1. And they were actually running it on the Bellows Falls local. So I convinced a friend to go to Bellows Falls, and they left at about 8 in the morning. And here they are. I believe this was them shoving back from Riverside, which is a transfer facility that they switch out. And so this is them going back, but it was an absolute goal to get an Alco like this on camera before they go, before they're not around anymore. So this was definitely a rare opportunity, and I definitely wanted to make the best of it. So this was a picture I got of them, really describing the Green Mountains here of Vermont with the Green Mountain Railroad. And here they are crossing the Arch Bridge, heading back home to Bellows Falls for the night. So this is the last picture I took of them as they returned home. Another great shot of these guys, and I haven't been back to Vermont since, but from my understanding, the 405 has not been on the Bellows Falls job, so I'm glad I went out here when I did. So then we come back to Conway Scenic again. I had a Sunday off. If for those of you who don't know, I actually work at the Winnipesaukee Scenic Railroad down in Meredith, and I had a Sunday off from the railroad, so I took that opportunity to go out and capture some pictures of Conway Scenic when they had the 4268 going up to the notch. So this was a picture I got on top of a rock cut just as they were entering the gateway. And this actually really made up for a lot of things, because when I was chasing this train, we tried to go up to one of the trestles on the westbound train, and we were about 5 minutes from the top, and we heard them go by. That was such a pain because we had to hike all the way back down. So we hiked back down and we got this shot of them coming out of the gateway. Still one of my favorite shots of this unit for sure. And here they're seen crossing Frankenstein's trestle on the way back on the eastbound shot. And this time I went up well in advance because that was a big mistake to go up on the westbound trip. So I got here well in advance of the train. I had at least 10 minutes to wait. So here they are crossing over the trestle with the 573 leading down. Really classic shot here, and I've love the engineering that goes into trestles like this. When you're up close to a trestle like that and you see all the engineering that goes into them, it really is amazing. Come foliage, this was where Winnipesaukee Scenic started getting a little bit busy. We had the fall foliage trains and all that fun stuff. So I didn't have a lot of time to go out and shoot foliage. So I decided, it was now or never. So here's a picture of them crossing the second iron bridge, heading westbound up to Fabian Station with the 252 in the lead. As you can see, there's a little bit of color here. It's still working its way out, but there was a little bit of color that was enough. So here they are crossing the second iron. And here they are heading back to North Conway. That's Mount Washington in the background. So this is them coming up the hill in Intervale. They're about a few miles out from North Conway at this point. And again, you can kind of see the color, but it still wasn't at a peak yet at that time. And this was a little bit past peak. So this was, I believe, the day after Winnipesaukee Scenic Operations ended for the season. Or it might have been the week before. I don't remember. But so I went out for New Hampshire North Coast again in the foliage. I wanted a few more pictures of it. So this is them coming around the corner in Burleyville. Where there's a cut of hopper cars sitting to the right-hand side. They must have dropped those off the day before. So this is them around, and behind me is actually the Burleyville station. It wasn't in the most best of shape for a picture. It had a little bit of a tarp over it, so I decided that this shot with the curve would have been much better than doing a shot with a station with tarp over it. And then came the equipment move. So every year, the Winnipesaukee Scenic Railroad moves their equipment from Meredith to Lincoln to do the Christmas trains. So I had heard about this and decided I wanted to go down and get a couple pictures of it along the rare trackage that we rarely ever use between Plymouth and Thornton. That is strictly usually used for equipment movements between our operations in Lincoln and Meredith. So this is them coming up through Plymouth, and that semaphore, I believe, is our only semaphore on the track, on at least our 54 miles of track. I believe that is the only semaphore that actually still has the blades. The other ones have the stands, but there's nothing attached to them. So this was definitely a good picture to get. Even if there's a couple leaves blocking the engine, it's still made for a nice picture. Here they're seen again, crossing a crossing. I believe this is in Thornton, just outside of where the operating rights for Hobo begin. So there's the 1590, which is, again, you saw that in the beginning, in the bright blue. That's it in the maroon red. Bringing up the end of the train, and we got a nice classic St. Andrew's crossbuck in the background there. And here they're seen crossing through the Jack-O-Lantern Golf Course. They're about 6 or 7 miles from Lincoln at this point. And that was it for that. So now we come up to one of my more recent adventures. This was actually taken a couple weeks ago. So we were on our way up to Brownville, Maine, Brownville Junction, to catch the Canadian Pacific. And on our way up, I was asleep in the car. And my friend wakes me up and he's like, look to your right. And there's the CSX geometry train. So the geometry train very recently took a trip up across the system. And this was them parked at Pittsfield Station. And our timing couldn't have been any better because about 5 minutes after we showed up, the crew got off of one of the train cars and got in the locomotives and they left. So that really was a neat little surprise in our day for sure. So here they are again in front of the Pittsfield station. There's actually a Maine Central caboose behind the SD40 that's out of view here. And the whole point of the trip was to go up and catch these guys. This is the Canadian Pacific up in Brownville. So we had sat in Brownville Junction pretty much the entire day because we had no idea about this territory. This was a completely new territory to us, which new territories, yes, they're fun to explore and they're really fun to go see for yourself. But when you don't know about the operation, you can sit there for hours and hours waiting for something to move. And that was the case here. We had sat here. We'd sat in Brownville for probably about 8 or 9 hours waiting for something to move. We got a couple trains in between that came in and tied down and a couple of yard moves, but nothing crazy. So we just sat there and sat there. I mean, it was a 5-hour drive. So we're like, we're not leaving until we get something. Let's make something of this trip. So about, I want to say 4 o'clock around that time, we finally got a train. The train departed and we saw an end of train device on the end of the train. So we're like, all right, these guys are getting ready to leave. So we take off to Greenville, which is somewhere that I've wanted to shoot for a long time. And I'm actually heading up there next week to shoot the Canadian Pacific Holiday Train when it goes through. And I plan to shoot at this exact bridge right here. So this is a regular Canadian Pacific train. This is train 223 crossing over Greenville. Just a little bit in the evening light. And you can see a little seaplane down there. It was a really neat little place to go up to. And then we got him crossing the East Outlet Bridge. This is just along Moosehead Lake. And it's got to be one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken in the sunset. I mean, the sun was a little late. It was already gone at this point, but there was still a little bit of pink sky. So I took advantage of it. And it came out gorgeous. And I've been always wanting to go to this bridge. So this was something nice to see for the first time. So yeah, again, here they are crossing the east outlet of the Moosehead Lake as they get ready to head over through Jackman and eventually into Canada. And then came the 4.5-hour drive home. So yeah, it's some long adventures that you take when you go like way out like this, but they're well worth it for some of the pictures you can get. And then last week, we had the opportunity to go out after Vermont Rail again. Now, I had chased, as you've seen throughout this presentation, I've had pictures of Vermont Rail, such as the Green Mountain, the Jeep 9 or the Jeep 7s. I don't know. It's one of those 2 Jeeps. And then we got the RS1. But I never actually chased a dedicated Vermont Rail job. So this was train 263, which is the Rutland to Riverside, which is Bellows Falls, job. So this was them leaving, around 9:45 as they round the curve at the Route 103 crossing. And this unit is gorgeous. This unit is a freshly painted unit. Vermont Rail repainted a ton of their units this year, which was a big reason why the 405 was out a lot, was because they were actually short on power. They were painting so many engines, they actually had a shortage on power. So they actually brought out the 405 and it did switching, which was a great opportunity. So here they are seen crossing, again, Route 103. And then here they are crossing, I believe this is, I can't remember the name of that bridge. It's just a little street that goes under the bridge, but this is a nice curve. as they cross through. It's stick season at this point, so there's not a lot of color there, but the engines definitely bring out a little bit of vibrance in the picture in themselves. So the front unit and the rear unit are painted, and the other two are just have yet to be painted, but they still look just as gorgeous as the other two do. And this was a shot I took of them on the way back. This is 264. It's the same engines heading back to Rutland for the night. And we shot the train at Ludlow Station, but the shot had came out horrible. There was no sun or anything. So it was not a great picture. So like we decided like, maybe we should go to another place and try and actually get a sunset shot because the sun was starting to go down at this point. So we found this straightaway, which is just outside of Ludlow, and we got this picture as they were heading up, and the sun was perfect. It hit right on the front of the units, so it made for a really, really good shot. And that pretty much comes to a really beautiful end. The biggest thing I had to say about Rare Photography is it's been a huge and improved thing for me over the last few years, and it's brought me to places that I never thought I could go in terms of photography. So it's been a long road, and it's been a fun road. And for anybody who's aspiring to do rare photography, if you've done it, or if you're planning to do it, it just takes time and takes practice. That's really what it takes at the end of the day. I'm still far from perfect. I still have a lot to learn, but this is some of the pictures I've taken. This is a small collection of the adventures I have ahead of me. So I do want to take a quick minute to thank you for allowing me to present tonight some of my pictures. It's been an honor, and thank you, folks.
Andrew, before we open it to questions, I just want to say, likewise, thank you for presenting to us. It was definitely very nice to see your progression from first starting out to where you're at now. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
At that now, anybody has any questions, and I'll also be watching the chat for anybody who wants to throw some questions in there.
Drew,
Awesome photos, by the way.
Thank you.
I remembered the Main Central 573 pulling the freight charter on May 22nd of 2021. I was
Yep.
all still there.
Yep.
Sometimes I like to get a break from passenger runs
Yeah, it's definitely nice. I mean,
and hauling
like,
freight trains instead.
oh yeah, like I said, I've been shooting passenger trains for years, and it was definitely time to go out into the world a little bit, go see what else was out there. Besides my little corner of the world in North Conway, I wanted to go see what else was out there to offer and else to take pictures, and this is definitely a show of that.
I definitely plan to start doing the same thing, trying to expand a little bit outside of like Conway Scenic and Maine and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a really nice little adventure, like I mean, over the last couple of years, you realize what's actually out there in the world, and that was something I never really realized. It's like, wow, like I missed all these photo locations, and now I can get them, which is awesome. And I mean, even today, I still find new locations on Conway Scenic to go shoot something, and it always comes out nice. But especially that photo in the top right corner there, the 68, that was something new that I had found with the mountains in the background. So it's just you really have a lot of creativity when it comes to photography. There's endless possibilities. There really is.
What's that picture over the thing?
Which one?
The picture in the upper middle.
Oh, this was 573 pulling in with it's actually the photo on the top right too. It's the same day. This was them coming back to North Conway.
No. The one with the boat in the front.
Oh, that one. Okay. That's the office car train that CSX brought up back in June through the Portsmouth branch. So this was taken as they were shoving. They actually had a shoving platform on the front, and they were actually heading down to the end of the line. So we took this picture on a little docking area as they passed by a boat, and it made for a nice little scene, especially because it's like near the ocean. We're in Portsmouth, so that really made for a nice little photograph opportunity right there.
There was a great article in the recent newsletter about the track across, but the right of way of the Eastern Division across Scarborough Marsh. Have you ever walked that? That's a really great place.
Oh no, I've never walked that. No, I'll have to do it sometime.
Andrew, could you tell us what work you do at the Winnipesaukee Scenic and maybe
Oh, yeah,
describe
yeah.
the operation there a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started at Winnipesaukee Scenic last year as a car host, and actually this year I was qualified as a fireman slash brakeman. So I'm a whole array of things down there. I've done flagging. I've done pretty much about like a lot of cool things down there, and it's been a huge learning experience. We have it's a family-owned operation, so we have runs out of both Lincoln, New Hampshire, and Meredith along the former Boston and Maine White Mountain branch. Our operation out of Lincoln does 80-minute round trips down to the Jack-o'-lantern, which was featured in here. And we also have the Meredith side, which goes along Lake Winnipesaukee and goes down to Lakeport, which is just outside of Laconia, and returns back to Meredith. That's a 2-hour trip. And we have done some neat things this year, especially. We had Pumpkin Fest this year. We actually ran trains out of Laconia, which, as I mentioned, we don't do very often. We don't run trains out of Laconia very often. So it was definitely a nice change to have trains going out of Laconia. Our rail bikes go out of there, but not our engines. So that was definitely a neat little photo opportunity for the people who were there. I was actually up in Meredith doing work up there, so I didn't get to see any of it, but the pictures that I saw were absolutely phenomenal, and it was a great day from what I've heard. So I hope we do it again for sure.
Oh, they're very good pictures, Andrew. I wish I had the knowledge you have at your young age.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're in the class of my son Jordan Jackson. I mean, they have their knowledge.
It's definitely a learning curve. You know, like I said, I'm still well into learning photography, but it's definitely improved over the last few years, which has been awesome to see.
I mean, you guys at your age are the next generation of train buffs.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep it going as long as possible.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew.
Yes.
I just want to mention back to that Laconia, it was the Pumpkin Festival in Laconia.
Yep.
And what a day it was. The train hauled in excess of 1,100 passengers that day.
Yeah, I had heard about that.
Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
It was incredible. And I mean, especially for the fact we only had 3 cars. I mean,
Right.
and that we did five trips out of there. It was
Yeah, they had to run an extra trip. Yeah,
I know it
they were
was.
booked for 4, but they wound up running 5 trips.
Yeah,
all
like-
jammed, all packed.
Yeah, like I had heard about it, and I'm like, wow, like that did really well. Like,
Yep.
I surely hope we do it again because that was really phenomenal.
Me too.
I think we had one member on chat and I want to know what cameras you use.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I started off with a Canon SX530, which is a small little digital camera. It was just a built-in lens. It doesn't have detachable lenses or anything. That's kind of what I started with. And then in 2018, I upgraded to a Canon T6, which was actually like a mirrorless camera. Actually uses portable lenses and everything like that. And I've been using that since. I've had it for about 4 years. It's served me pretty well. And it's definitely a great camera if you're planning on getting into photography at all. It's a great camera to start with. Most of the pictures you've seen were actually taken on my T6. I think 5 out of the 6 are in here were actually all taken with them. It's a great camera. So that's the stuff I use. Nothing too fancy, but it gets the job done. So. We got any other questions, or have I answered everything. Yep, I do. I edit my
Another question
pictures.
too is somebody asked also, do you edit your photos?
Yes, I do. I do edit my pictures. Some of them, I use 2 apps to do it, and that's how I do most of my pictures. I'll add a little bit of brightness to them. I'll pop the colors out a little bit. I don't try to do anything excessive, like to make it look completely unrealistic, but just doing a little bit of work with the saturation, a little bit of work with the contrast, it can really make a photo pop out. And that's something I've learned over my time. I've messed up some of my pictures over time. I'll admit that. It's definitely not been a perfect road. In terms of editing, it takes some practice, but yes, I do edit most of my photographs.
I just want to say thank you very much. It was excellent pictures. Really
thank you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew, for sharing your photography with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like all the photos that you took.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll have to do one of these at some point once because right now I still use my phone to take. I film videos. I don't take photographs, but I just take videos and post them on YouTube. That's what I do.
Yeah, I do
And,
that from time to time. I'll do that, but
I was actually thinking of taking some photos of the 470 Club engines at some point when they're running. Maybe send it to whoever controls the photos, and they could probably use it
in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, in the winter. I'll 1 second. All right. So what do you think? Sorry,
It
guys.
must take a lot of time to do editing and stuff, I would imagine, Andrew.
What was that?
It must take quite a bit of time to edit stuff.
It can. Usually what I do is when I come back from a photography trip, I do all my editing in one go, because if I do it in parts, I'm probably never going to get it done. So I just do it in one go. It can take anywhere between 1 and 3 hours to edit all the pictures after it's completed. Because there's some issues that you have, like a sun glare or a dust spot, and it takes time to remove those because you got to blend it in and everything. So it takes time, but it's definitely worth it in the end for sure. Some of the pictures that I've taken this year have come out incredible, and I've been really happy with some of the results.
And again, it's a very good, you did a very excellent program. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
And unless anybody else has anything, Andrew, I'll say thank you for your time tonight. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, Andrew, and thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. I thought your photos were excellent.
It was an honor to be here tonight to present to you all. So thank you for this opportunity. It's been great.
Very much appreciated. And with that, everybody, I will say have a great evening, and we'll see you back here next month.
See you next month.